You wrote that you tweeted, Stephen Hawking asked what breathes fire into equations, which meant what makes given mathematical equations realize the physics of a universe. Similarly, I wonder what breathes fire into computation, what makes given computation conscious. Okay, so how do we engineer consciousness? How do you breathe fire and magic into the machine?
So it seems clear to me that not every computation is conscious. I mean, you can, let's say, just keep on multiplying one matrix over and over again, and it might be gigantic matrix. You can put a lot of computation. I don't think it would be conscious. So in some sense, the question is, what are the computations which could be conscious? One assumption is that it has to do purely with computation, that you can abstract away matter. Other possibilities there, it's very important what's the realization of computation, that it has to do with some force fields or so, and they bring consciousness. Mm-hmm. At the moment, my intuition is that it can be fully abstracted away. So in case of computation, you can ask yourself, what are the mathematical objects or so that could bring such a properties? So for instance, if we think about the models, AI models, what they truly try to do, or like models like GPT, is they try to predict next word or so, mm-hmm. and this turns out to be equivalent to compressing text, and because in some sense, compression means that you learn the model of reality, and you have just to remember where are your mistakes. The better you are in predicting and in some sense, when we look at our experience, also when you look, for instance, at the car driving, you know in which direction it will go. You are good like in prediction. And, it might be the case that the consciousness is intertwined with compression. It might be also the case that self-consciousness has to do with compressor trying to compress itself. So, I was just wondering, what are the objects in, mathematics or computer science which are mysterious that mm-hmm. could have to do with consciousness? And then I thought, you see in mathematics there is something called Gödel theorem, mm-hmm. Which means if you have sufficiently complicated mathematical system, it is possible to point the mathematical system back on itself. Mm-hmm. In computer science, there is something called halting problem. Mm-hmm. It's somewhat similar construction. So I thought that if we believe that under assumption that consciousness has to do with compression, then you could imagine that as you keep on compressing things, then at some point it actually makes sense for the compressor to compress itself.
Meta compression.
Yeah.
Consciousness is meta compression.
That's an idea. And in some sense, the crazy.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
So, but do you think, if we think of a Turing machine, a universal Turing machine, can that achieve consciousness? So is there something beyond our traditional definition of computation that's required?
So it's a specific computation, and I said this computation has to do with compression. Mm-hmm. And the compression itself, maybe other way of putting it is you are internally creating the model of reality. In order, you try inside to simplify reality in order to predict what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And that also feels somewhat similar to how I think actually about my own conscious experience. So clearly, I don't have access to reality. The only access to reality is through, cable going to my brain. And my brain is creating a simulation of reality, mm-hmm. and I have access to the simulation of reality.